That's great. I don't know if I can follow Big Mike. That's a tough act to follow. Um, yeah, I should share on that how I got to know him. Being in LA, we got sober around the same time in the late '80s, and his sponsor was the same as my sponsor. Um, and and we were doing workshops down in. He was asking me to do a workshop with him, and I decided to. And I was just getting into the steps. I was dry in the program for about 8 months, and I was more miserable than I was when I was drinking at the end of my drinking, and I didn't understand what was happening because I thought if I was just able to put the drink down, things would go all right. And you guys started schooling me on the process of the allergy and the illness and all those things. But getting back to Mike, which was interesting, and it was one of those things where I had to start changing my attitude. And I was just finished my fifth step, and I was in getting ready. I was looking at 6 and 7, and we had all my 8-step list I was getting ready to write out. And Joe asked me to go down with him and help him with this workshop down in South Central. And I said, Joe, South Central, come on. You know, I was a card carrying bigot when I was a kid because it was a learned behavior being brought up where I was in my part of town in New York. You know, I come from a long line of bigots. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any better, you know. The hatred that I had towards this group, that group, and it was a learned experience. It was just part of the fabric of my makeup. And I'm trying to explain to Joe what are you doing? He said, are you willing to go to any lengths? Are you honest, open-minded, and willing? And I didn't want to drink again. So I said, yeah. And what an experience. And I got to meet Mike and a lot of good people like that. So anyway, so that dovetails into when I was real fortunate early on, and I don't, you don't see it until you look back with the giants in the program that I was exposed to because I was, just thought I was so self-centered still. When I got into my 9th step, these guys got me right into 10 and 11. It was real crucial that they got me into 10 and 11 because of the numerous amount of amends I need to make, and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just it was just overwhelming. And they got me into 10 and 11 as I was cleaning up my past, like it talks about, and it helped me tremendously. It was able to give me a guideline because of having the reservation, I guess you would call it, about this God issue, which was a real big thing in my life because of the upbringing I had and the resentment I had towards it or whatever you were calling it. And I didn't want to have anything to do with it, but I had that willingness, that flimsy reed that I was holding on to, and I was starting to wake up a little bit. So it was really helpful for me, especially when I was knocking on these doors, and some of the men's, half of them didn't go the way I'd like. Get away from me, you crazy son of a bitch. I don't ever want to see you again. To, hey, I'm glad you're doing well. Here's the bill and we'll negotiate the interest, and it was real good because and at that time, I had to have a whole shitload of quarters in my pockets because I'd be going to the payphone because I was doing these amends tours across the country, being a big geographical drinker. I was moving from state to state because of it was their problem. And I was a real good guy. I was really good at blaming because I couldn't see, as you guys explained to me in step 1, And step three, I couldn't see my drinking, my living problem with my drinking. I couldn't connect them both. I was so deluded. But anyway, so I was doing these, Nevada, Utah, Pennsylvania, New York, where I'm from, a couple in Jersey, New Mexico. So as I was doing that, I would be running to the payphone and I'd be I'd be whining and going, "Hey, this thing is not going the way I want. This guy wants, I don't know if I could do this and this." And I'd be, after I finished whining, he would go, "Have you thought about drinking?" And like, oh no, because I was, and that I love that spiritual experience, the way you read it at the beginning of each meeting, because it was one other old idea that I had, that you guys had to school me on how this thing happens. And the more I started waking up, the more I started seeing it unfold in front of me. So that really helped me early on, and as I got into it more and more, and using 10 and 11, especially 11 at night, and I had to make sure I had the right attitude when I was doing it, and make a conscious decision and sit down and how to look at step 11. It wasn't just about prayer. And you guys schooled me on meditation and my attitude towards meditation, which has developed and changed over the years. Don P gave me a great visualization type of thing, something short, because my mind was so racing, and the thoughts that were going through my mind were unbelievable. As you sit down, and I thought I was, yeah, I should share on this. And that woke me up. I was relatively new. I had about 6 years. And Houston gave me this exercise. He says, "Kevin, let me give you this exercise. When you go home, I want you to sit by yourself in the quiet in the living room and just watch your mind. Don't think of anything. Just watch the thoughts that go through your mind." Because I always thought that I was so self-centered. I thought I was creating the thoughts of my mind, these thoughts that would come up. And it was like one of those exercises where you get away from it, you're more pissed off than you were when you started, because it's just like really threw me into a tizzy on how powerless I am over my mind sometimes. So that was uncomfortable and those to me are spiritual awakenings. And it didn't have to be a comfortable thing, because most of the great lessons that I've learned in sobriety were hard truths that I just couldn't digest right away. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. And you guys taught me this stuff on how to do this in the morning. This is what I do in the morning. And my attitude has to be this: the moment my eyes wake up. And it really was helpful, especially with amends. Now, with amends, the amount of money I owed, it took me 7-8 years to finish my amends completely. There was so much there. But I was still in 10 and 11, and it gave me the power. And it talks about power in step 11. And sometimes I get caught off. I go off the path one more time. We get some power in our life, and it's not like the kind of power we were self-willing when we're out there ripping and running and banging and slinging. It's this power that I was able to do these things. And the next thing you know it, one more time, this mind buys the lie thinking that I'm doing it, and it talks about a little bit about that and we agnostics to watch out for that. And I did crash and burn a little bit, but I'm glad I didn't drink, where it talks about power, peace, happiness, and the sense of direction we want. We're learning as we, go along this path. And power is a tricky one because sometimes I think it's my own. And when I do that, I always go down in flames and I forget where the power is coming from one more time. And, peace, who doesn't want peace? And I had to change my concept of peace. And that goes to this attitude that 11 really turned me on to what peace really is in my life. And the same thing with happiness. Happiness had to be totally decrapped and rebuilt because I had my old ideas that you guys talk about in chapter 5, these old belief systems on what I think happiness is. And so it took me years in the early sobriety to unlearn these things of this learned behavior that I had instilled in me. And through the spiritual exercises and 11, I was really able to slowly, I would love to tell you it was an abracadabra moment, which I always want to have if it benefits me. I want to get it right away. And it was, this habit of I need this amount of money in the bank. I need this over here. I need this. It was all money, marbles, and chalk, basically, because that's all I knew. So I had to slowly unlearn that and throw that towel in one strand at a time. And it just is amazing what this has done for me. In order to be able to do that, because when I do my review at night, I constantly got to remember I'm constructively looking at this, not destructively, because my thought machine up here, this little thought factory between my ears, wants to pump out this other negative stuff. And when it does do that, it's that warning sign that goes off, that little warning light goes off. Hold on a minute. So I'm able to catch that a lot. But if I don't catch it and it still carries on, I have guys, 10-step guys and women, 10-step buddies, especially with the relationship. I'm married now, and I had to learn about women. So one of the things that the way I was brought up through the steps, we do an annual and semi-annual, go through the steps, and we fifth step with multiple people. And I had to start fifth stepping with women who have recovered in the program and have had the awakening to see the other point of view. And I had no idea. And that was a big eye opener for me. Yeah, that was not comfortable at the beginning. It was like, holy mackerel, why did I call Franny? You know what I mean? It was like, ouch, I'd be cringing. But she hit me with these hard truths, and I needed to deal with people who knew whose con was my con, even though I don't even know I'm conning sometimes, but my mind justifies it, and I buy the lie. It was really, hindsight, looking back at it, it was interesting. And some of them were tough women. Holy mackerel. Anyway, that was kind of funny. I haven't thought of that in a while, but even today when I call up and I'm 10-stepping something, she goes, that's a stupid ass thing to say. Boom, just like that. And then I look at the self-centered fear that she wants me to look at. And it was stuff like that. So anyway, so I'm having this thing and I'm reviewing my night in a way where I'm seeing how I'm not in this conscious contact, this flow. And maybe I was a little rude to this guy over there, or those, the 13 questions it talks about us to look at. And for me, when I was looking at from these spiritual principles that you guys taught me, And when I apply that to my review, I look at it in a constructive way, and I'm able to see, because I still have that tendency to walk around asleep on my feet as I'm going through my day, dreaming I'm awake. I swear, I still get there, because I think that thought. Then, I catch one thought and I believe it to be true, and I go down this rabbit hole. And fortunately, like it talks about in 10 and 11, where we pause and we're able to sit back and say the prayer, the 11-step prayers and the 10-step prayers that you guys taught me, that have kind of get me back into grounding myself again. Because if I don't do that, that negativity comes in. And once I'm into that negative thinking, it's, Katie, bar the door, I'm off to the races. And I don't even know it, because I have this justified story on why I'm going down that road. So it's been real interesting to see how it's just the more and more 11 just keeps coming more and more alive for me, and knowing that I can't, trying to keep this conscious contact with God. I know that I'm going to go off track, and as I go through the day, and that's how come you guys gave me that too. And I'm doing it actually today. I had one of these guys that I 10-step with told me to set my phone for the alarm to go off every hour. And that's the reminder as I'm going through the day, because when I'm in the flow of work or doing certain things, I kind of forget. I have that built-in forgetter, and that alarm goes off, and that reminds me to, all right, come back. Maybe I'm already back, but sometimes I'm off, and I go, wow, it's great. So that was a good trick as I'm going through my day. That helps me, especially with when I get up in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I have this intent on what to look at the moment I get up. You guys reminded me of this attitude I have to have of, okay, God, come into my life. Let me see it, because sometimes I wake up and I got the vultures at the end of the bed who want to have a committee meeting. And, each one is, I got Rambo over here. I got Mr. Businessman over there. I got Mr. Husband. I got I got names for everybody, and once I'm able to step back from that, and sometimes I used to play with it. I give them each 15, 20 seconds to share. I said, okay, Rambo, you go first. All right, Mr. Businessman, you're second. So I get it and I bring it into the light, and it kind of reminds me of going, okay, everybody done sharing, and okay, what is this attitude that I'm going to carry with me as I go through the day? I'm going to try to stay in this conscious contact, or this, and God's will. What is God's will for me? You guys gave me these things as I was going through the steps. Well, I think God's will for me is kind of like unselfishness, honesty, which was a big one for me. And you guys showed me the difference between honesty and truth. Unselfishness, pure in my intentions, purity in my thought, and purity in my intentions when I interact with people in love. Oh, I had to have a lot of work done there in that area, and that has evolved over the years, which is really cool. And and wouldn't you know it, I'm open-minded to where looking where religious people are right, but I don't believe in that doctrine, but I don't judge them and throw them down the stairs like I used to. So you guys taught me a little bit about that with compassion and maybe a little mindfulness for well-being. Holy mackerel, I think that's kind of God's will for me. And I need the power to carry that out when my intent is good. So, as I'm going through the day, it's telling me to watch for these things, that are going to crop up. And it's, sometimes it talks about going back into my old ideas, my old belief systems. They're always going to crop up because I think I shouldn't think that anymore. Another delusion because I've had the experience, I've gone through the work. I here's my spiritual resume, and that's the one that gets me in trouble. My spiritual pride. Holy mackerel! Talk about getting smacked upside the head. And you guys, I'm like the guy walking off the cliff seeing isn't the view grand, and then you guys grab me by the back of the neck and go, "Wait a minute, knucklehead, hold on a minute, come back. Let's keep our feet on the ground here." So it's been really really interesting, and I've been able to change up my meditation. I changed it up about 10 years ago. I was just doing a mantra, and now I'm doing a breath meditation. And you talk about not being the arbitrator of most of my thoughts. You're sitting down quiet, watching your breath. And you guys schooled me on this. So as these thoughts come in, I'm not going to try to not think. I acknowledge them. It's like a little kid, you pat it on the head, and then I go back to the breath because I know in a couple seconds there's going to be another thought right behind it. And it might have nothing to do with the first thought. And sometimes I've even gotten lucky where there's been silence for maybe 8, 10 seconds. Boy, that's scary. That was interesting. And I learned all that from you guys when if I have this right attitude, I always thought I needed to my intent on meditation. You guys kind of keep me in check with that because my intent I thought was to have no thought, which is one more time a trap. I think, okay, I'm not doing it right because I'm still thinking. And sometimes it's noisier than usual. This factory between my ears is pumping it out in overdrive some days, and some days it's not, you know. And what's cool about that is I'm able to see it, especially as I'm going through the day. When I'm not in, when I'm seeing these thoughts come up, and I just acknowledge them. I go, "That's just thought," and then, back to what I'm doing. Okay, that's interesting. It's like the committee members on our inventory. We have all these Victor. I used to name them on my inventory. I had Victor Victim, I had Rambo, I had all these different guys that I was playing depending on what I wanted to get out of you or it or the institution. And I used to be, and so I'm able to recognize it a little bit more. The rebellious little kid, those type of things. So with that in mind, it threw it into a whole different realm for me, and I'm able to get more effective because as you go through, and I didn't see this until a couple, 3 or 4 years ago, when it talks in 10 and 11, it's telling us it's not out here. It's not out here. Just like you guys schooled me in the third step, where I get caught up in the delusion. If I only managed well, I can rest, satisfaction, and happiness. And it's not out here, it's in here. And I see this thing between my ears still tries to tell me it's out here sometimes. And that's why it's been really exciting for me. And not saying I have my bad days. Now you got to understand, I've had some honesty. Honesty requires it. So I'm 9, 10 years sober, I think, and I'm running all over LA. We're doing these workshops. I'm working with these guys. I got a business I'm running, and I didn't know anything about manageability in that sense. And all of a sudden, I started slacking up on 10 and 11. I was tired, and then the thought factory starts coming up with these excuses. Well, I'll do. The prayer was just like I was I was just reading through it, and not my attitude was not intact. My intent and my attitude was not intact, and I couldn't catch it. And I started getting into the give me this, give me that as I was going through the day. I couldn't see it. I didn't realize how close I was to a drink. Talk about being untreated. And then I'm whining one day to a friend of mine. I'm about 4 weeks, a month into this self will. And he's going, F this, Kevin, let's go down to the liquor store. You need a drink. And then it just hit me because he's in the program. He just like that, just like, and I'm telling him about this big story that I had and why I'm justifiably resentful. And it just caught me, and I had to get back in. And those were the things that, 10 tells us that we're going to drift away, and we can't rest on our laurels. So, and because I don't want to be dry, walking around being dry, it's just, I've done that. And it's prepared me to stay vigilant in this, because when you're able to be in this fellowship of the Spirit, like you guys, your theme is, it's just, I don't want it to be anywhere else. I'm more attentive. I'm more alert with my wife. I learned how to listen. You guys taught me how to listen when I have the right attitude. Kevin, don't listen to my words, but I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen, because I used to be what the shrinks. I got a couple of shrinks, friend of mine, and they say, Kevin, what you're doing is you're chasing the stick. You'd be talking to me, and then my mind would grab onto one thing you would say, and then I would start thinking of a rebuttal on this one thing. Meanwhile, you're still talking, and I'm missing your whole intent of what you're trying to say. And you guys taught me how to listen, and I'm still learning that, especially with my wife today. She's a great teacher for me, and she doesn't pull any punches, which is great for me. And she lets me know how it is, and I'm able to walk through things that I never thought I'd be able to walk through sober. And I know I'm not alone when I do that. You guys are constantly there with helping me along the way, and trying to urge me to maybe take a look at this, maybe take a look at that. Not that I can know the answer. I'm not getting caught up in the answer, because the answer is within this God within that you showed me, that I had covered up with so much stuff, so much resentment and anger and revenge and justification and money and marbles and chalk, all that delusion. So with that in mind, I was able to stick around here, and I got to tell you, it's the best deal in town, because this spiritual malady, that third part of the threefold disease that you taught me, it's always going to be there, and it's always going to come up. So we got these things to look at when they come up. We have these warning lights that go off. We have these things to our review. When I'm doing my review, all of a sudden something triggers. And I got to believe that's that power in my life that I choose to call God today, working with me. I was short with that guy. Maybe I need to go back and talk to him tomorrow. I was, rude to the guy at the supply house or something like that. Because I can turn into the sheriff of the supply house real quick when I get in there, and I'm on my quest. So those have been interesting, and I'm able to catch it and pause and do those things and get back to where I want to be, which is, happy. I got this different vision of happiness now that you guys have taught me, this conscious contact that I can always go back to when I'm clear on certain things. So when the anger does come up or the fear does pop up, I can't abracadabra goodbye. Sometimes I have to write a piece of inventory on it. I gotta call you guys because sometimes I can't see it. I think it's all this shiny object over here. And meanwhile, you guys square me. I'm no, 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 Kevin. Take a breath. Let's look at this over here for a second. And one more time, let's see. Oh yeah. One more awakening comes and I'm able to come back and I'm not thinking of drinking. I'm around alcohol during the day and this type of stuff. And it doesn't, it's not on me. And that is another gift of the program. I don't have to rub my knuckles together when I go into the supermarket or go into the store like I did when I was new, you know, and being dry for that 8 months, and I didn't get it. I thought it was all about just going to meetings and that type of thing. Since I was just planning on just learning how to drink normally anyway, but that's a different topic for a different day. And I think that's all I got, Ali. Unless you want me to keep going, I don't care.